I hope you're doing well. First of all, can I be heard? That is the first question I always have to ask. Let me check. Hello. So, yeah, looks like I can be heard. That's a good thing. Okay. Very happy to hear it. You must forgive me. I'm doing this a little late in the day because I'm pretty worn out. The last couple of days have been difficult. Yes, somebody is indeed tired. You're right about that. Um, Not going to go into a whole lot of details. Let's just say I'm on a new medication right now, and it's taking some getting used to in terms of the effects, the side effects. So. Little bit of exhaustion or a little bit of wooziness had something to do with it, and it's allergy related. So anyway, it's not Benadryl, which I avoided because of the wooziness. But all I can say is nope, not the other one, not that word. It's although well, in this state that's especially illegal. So no, Piano Man did not go as well as I would have hoped because in order to play a harmonica, you need to take off your mask, which at the last second, his high school refused to let him do because of COVID, even though there wasn't anybody within 100 feet of him. He was really angry about that. And it had an impact on his performance. I haven't put it online. I think he did a fantastic job, regardless. A really, really good job, but I'm not uploading anything until he gives me the okay. So thus far, only one person has actually seen it, somebody with a lot of experience in performance. He not only did the Piano Man, he did several performances with his band as a lead singer, and both playing rhythm guitar and singing at the same time is not an easy thing. Hello, Cornwall. I'm hoping to get to your neck of the woods here in the next few months. So anyway, but yeah, it was enough to really, really get me angry at the school. But all I can say is aside from his band and all that, I don't think there was a hell of a lot of talent at that show, to be honest. But then again, I may be just being mean here. There were some other people who did a very good job and were funny and stuff like that, so that was a good thing. But in terms of actual musical talent, it was just a wonderful thing to watch. And so I'm going to stop being impossibly proud here or intolerably proud, and we'll get on with the topic at hand. So here we go. The do I need water? Yeah, always have that. Always have that, thanks to Axiom Space. And whales, yes, indeed. Whales also I am very fond of, and so is my son. My son did some mountain biking in Wales and had a wonderful time back in 2019. So that was really fantastic. Okay, on we go to SN15. I thought that this would be an appropriate thing to talk about. I am leaving for Boca Chica tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I'm actually flying into Corpus Christi. And then after that, it's from Corpus Christi, I'll be going to Boca Chica after that. And whoever said that there's nothing wrong with SN15, well, if you're a SpaceX engineer, then great. I certainly accept what you just said. If not, they are keeping a real lid on what's going on right now, the SpaceX employees. Extremely so. I have eyes on the ground in Boca Chica, and they are being very, very tight-lipped about SN15. Now, that doesn't mean there's a problem. It just means that there are some different things going on. So I just wanted to more have a discussion of what's going on with SN15, whether that be positive, negative, standard procedure, whatever. Because this has been different. They've had one static fire after another scheduled, and one road closure after another is scheduled, and then they don't do it. That's not something that's typical. That might happen once, that might happen twice, but not a whole bunch of times. And then to do another cryogenic test in the middle of all of it. And then on Monday, they have not only a static fire scheduled, or at least the last time I checked, they also have FAA restrictions over the area for a launch. So they are going to be doing both things. They're going to be, possibly anyway, doing both a static fire and a launch. My prediction in terms of what's going to happen here, yes, there have been a couple hundred improvements made to the ship, which theoretically should make it better. However, given all of the things that they have had to do to make the ship flight worthy, because they really intended to fly it last week, given all of the things that they have had to do to make, adjustments, to make do additional testing, my opinion is you introduce a couple hundred new things, that's a couple hundred new things that could go wrong. Now, I'm not going to say that it's definitely going to go that way, but in my opinion, it's probably not going to be a perfect test, as in a perfect stick the landing test. Now, I hope I'm wrong about that, because there is so much more at stake now, so much more at stake than there ever was with Starship. It's difficult to even describe. It's the fact of the matter is, every time a Starship blows up now, it's going to hit the media, it's going to hit the Associated Press that NASA, lunar lander explodes. Oh, thank you so much, Paul, by the way. And yeah, just so you know, this is a trip that I am undertaking. Thank you. Any support I can get is greatly appreciated. It is being done at considerable expense because I had to do it at the last moment, because I wasn't sure if they were going to launch last week, in which case it would have been a wasted ticket. So I kind of had to wait until I was sure that they were going to be launching. And then it looked like they might be launching on Monday, in which case I had to purchase a ticket for Sunday. Not a whole lot of advance notice. So I did pay some decent money for that and rental car, etc. But not to say that there's any obligation here. I'm just saying, trying to raise money for it, as always, to see if whatever support I can get is appreciated. But then again, these likes I'm getting, 142 so far, and all these people watching, that's a great thing too, and I deeply appreciate it. It's all in the description too, if you don't want to do the super chat thing, PayPal, all of that, Patreon, etc. Thank you, Mark. All of these things are also there if you want to go through that way. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now. Let's move on. So let's see here. Crew 2 launch was excellent, says Starliner Glitch. Yes, indeed it was. It was excellent. And SpaceX knows how to put on a show, something that the Boeing stream severely lacked. Thank you very much, by the way, Rodney. Really appreciate it. From New Zealand. Wow, you're staying up late. Darth Russ says, don't put a lot of stock in the temporary flight restrictions. They have to be requested 4 to 7 days in advance, while SpaceX's plan changes faster than that. It's routine for SpaceX to get them in batches of 2 or 3 and then cancel them as time goes by. The one for Monday still means no flight until after a static fire. That's good to hear, Darth. Thank you for that. And yeah, I'm sure that you're right. I'll tell you, it is a rough time of year for me here in South Carolina. I am vulnerable to allergies, and this is the worst time of year. You should see my car. Thank you, Chris, for the 15 quid. Really appreciate that. Yeah, you should see my car. It's utterly covered in pollen. It's really unfortunate. Hermes, thank you. And yes, I am looking forward to witnessing history with SN15. Well, I mean, and everybody quiet, but I have a piece of history, as a lot of you folks know. And now that this thing is going to the moon, wow, do I have a piece of history. And that one's from SN9, by the way, that was given to me by a fan. Nothing really fancy, but nevertheless. And by the way, if SpaceX asks for this back, I'll give it back. But, you know, there's a whole lot of people with a whole lot of stuff out there. So you've got a lot of searching ahead of you. Yes, Arizona is better if you have allergies. That is very true. So is Colorado, which is where I'm from, by the way. I never went through the fact that was that was the deal. Yeah, I've been to the UK 8 times actually. I use a lot of their slang and that sort of thing. Thank you, Bill, by the way. So yeah, I have been to the UK actually more times than any place really in the United States, aside from places that I've lived. I have a love affair with that country. I really do. And now that the UK is delving heavily into the private space industry, that is super exciting, super exciting, that the UK is doing so much in the private space industry. And I intend to cover that as thoroughly as I possibly can, because it needs to be covered. What was the problem with the Raptor that was recently reworked before installation? I couldn't tell you. All I know is that these are new engines. They're very new. And so as a result, you know, anything that's brand new, anything that is a new product is going to have issues, regardless of how much time that it's had on the test stand. You know, there's always going to be issues. So, you know, there's, you know, any kind of issue could have happened. What I am interested in is the fact that there was talk beforehand that because they had new engines and because, you know, there were so many improvements to these engines, that all of the engine swap outs that we used to see, that wasn't going to happen anymore. Well, maybe not. Maybe we're going to continue to have these issues because maybe the Raptor is still not a mature engine. And if that's the case, that's fine. You know, that happens all the time. 10 euro from Andy. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. And it will help. From Catalonia, Spain. Thank you very much. My daughter would very much love to go there, by the way. She speaks fluent Spanish, spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico, and I know they speak entirely different, a different kind of Spanish there. But nevertheless, she spent the entire time speaking Spanish there. Had a wonderful time, and I know she really wants to go to Spain. Beautiful country that you live in. From what I understand, I have never actually been there. I've only been to the UK and to Ireland and to France and Belgium. That is the extent of my international travels, at least as far as Europe is concerned. Okay, for previous Starship prototypes, says Tijman, you were complaining they were going too fast, but now they're going too slow. No, I don't think they're going too slow, actually. I'm glad they're going this slow. What I'm wondering about, I don't necessarily look upon this as a problem. What I am interested in is this a change in philosophy? Are they going slower because they have almost $3 billion from NASA at stake, that's been given to them? And now they need to kind of do things more the NASA way. That very well could be. Somebody just said, let's go Belgium. One of the nicest countries that I've been to, nicest people. I'll tell you, the Belgians are wonderful people. Really, really awesome. Thank you, Ian. I actually am an old-fashioned guy when it comes to allergies and all that. I use a handkerchief, as gross as that may be. I'm stuck in the 1940s when it comes to that. But I hate going through tissues like crazy. I don't even know what to do with them. Gosh darn it, my mouth is just getting dry. So no, I actually don't regard going slower as a problem at all, and I never did. I always talked about how, Starship development might want to slow down just a little bit, that sort of thing. So, hard to say. But nevertheless, my Lego Starship is coming along faster than SN15. Speaking of Lego stuff, by the way, I got the Lego Space Shuttle for the set. And as I build it, I'm going to be sharing the build with you guys, including Lego is usually really good about this, about building details into their adult kits that actually match the features on the ship itself. They did a good job with the ISS on that when I built that. So I'm going to be sharing the build of the space shuttle and the Hubble Space Telescope with you guys. So we'll get to that point. That is one thing that, thanks, Gator. That's one thing that I do, one thing that I talk about. And I guess I tend to agree. A lot of people say that they're not designed to land yet, that that's not the intention yet. And, okay, fair enough. If that's, what they're looking at, then that's fine. But, if that's the intent, then why bother putting all those heat tiles on? I mean, they're not going to survive. So why bother putting them on there if you can't examine them to see how well the bracketing systems work, how well they stay on, how well they survive a flight? It seems that there's at least some desire to land this thing successfully. So I don't know. Excuse me. That's one thing. Another thing is if the philosophy is not to land it, not to start off right from the get-go with a landing, then in my opinion, that might be a bit flawed. Simply because in order to have a successful flight, especially if we're talking about lunar Starship in the next 4 years, well, 3 years actually, you're going to need to refuel it a lot of times, in which case you're going to need to reuse these things. They're going to have to land, not just from 10 kilometers or 12 kilometers. They're going to have to land from orbit. If not now, when? If we're not going to be working on landing these things now, when? I think that there needs to be a sense of urgency on this. Now, that's just my opinion. But nevertheless, I really feel that the landing should have a high degree of priority. And if it doesn't, I think that they're making a mistake. But that's just my opinion. And that may become more apparent as they blow up more of these in the future. And who knows, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll start sticking landings. That's what I really hope, is they start sticking landings now. Because as they keep blowing them up, the media is going to have a field day with that. Because it's not about SpaceX anymore. It's about going to the moon. And NASA going to the moon. And Elon doesn't give a damn what the media says. He never has. It's one of the things I admire about him. But NASA does care. And the politicians who support NASA, they care. So that's where problems could start to arise is, if the media starts to report that lunar landers are blowing up instead of Starship prototypes, instead of SpaceX prototypes blowing up. That in my opinion, is a potential issue. But that's just my opinion. So, and it may not be shared by SpaceX, and I'm not in charge. Lunar Starship will not refuel in lunar orbit. That's true. However, if it's going to refuel in LEO, if it's going to refuel in low Earth orbit, that means the tankers need to land. The tankers need to be reused, which means that we have to get the landing and reusability aspect of this ship done. That needs to be mastered. And that's very important. So, I personally, I think SpaceX attaches some importance to this. I think the fact that Elon explains why the ship didn't land successfully every single time it doesn't land successfully, and he says, we're working on a fix, we're going to fix this, that sort of thing. Every time he puts a level of priority and a level of importance on that, I think it matters to him. I really think it does. Otherwise, he wouldn't tweet about it less than 24 hours after it happens. I think it does matter to him. I think he wants this thing to land, and he has made so many statements about rapid reusability. If we do not have rapid reusability, we will not get to Mars, if to paraphrase one of his quotes. So I think rapid reusability matters to the guy, and so therefore landing matters to the guy. That's just my view. I've never spoken to him, so I could be wrong. But at the same time, just judging by his tweets and judging how the guy talks, I think that that's where his priority is. Okay, Darth Russ says, I'm pretty confident they want SN15 back well enough to look at the Raptors afterward. Good point, Darth. If the legs collapse post-landing and scraps the vehicle, so be it. These are the old legs anyway, as long as they can do a post-flight on the material. But a slightly higher priority is care and feeding of the Raptors in flight, which has been problematic thus far. Good point, Darth. Good point. Darth, by the way, Darth Rust is one of my strongest supporters, and he usually has some really, really good insights as to what's going on with Starship and space in general. So, in any event, I keep having to reboot this, or for some reason the previous missions to the moon didn't refuel. Why now? You know what? I've been asking that question. Here's the reason. If we want to get a lot of mass to the moon, the whole reason that the Apollo capsule was so tiny is because escaping the Earth's gravity is such an incredible feat of work. It takes so much fuel, 90% of the rocket's mass, just to escape the Earth's gravity to get to LEO. And then after that, you need to use a lot more fuel to get all the way to the moon and then land. That's why the Apollo capsule was just a few tons, as opposed to the Saturn V, which was a colossal monster. So the only way that you can make this work and get lots of mass to any place in the solar system, not just the moon, is because you have to refuel in low Earth orbit. Once you've used all of your fuel to get a lot of mass into low Earth orbit, then you refuel and go the rest of the way. And in this case, you're going to have to not only refuel enough to get to the moon, or actually to rendezvous with the Gateway or with the Orion or whatever, then land, then come back and rendezvous with the Orion again or with the Gateway, and then get the lunar starship all the way back to LEO. That's going to take a lot of fuel, and therefore a lot of tankers. And you can't have your tankers blowing up during that process. You've got to have them reusable. Well, you could, but it would be very, very wasteful. And I would say not what SpaceX has proposed at all to NASA. So that is my opinion anyway. Okay, let's see. Yes, over 1,000 people watching. Dear Lord, thank you very much. Please like, please subscribe. I've got just over 300 likes. Really appreciate it. I'm so glad that all you folks are watching. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes real quick. I would be very happy about that. Why does Starship use three sea-level Raptor engines if they only need two to gimbal to the landing maneuver? Well, the explanation for that is inherent in SN9. SN9 tried to perform a landing maneuver using two engines and then failed because one of the engines gave out. And somebody quite questioned Elon about that particular failure. And so he said, it's because we were too dumb. He literally said that. And so after that, using all three engines was something that that Starship became standard procedure for Starship, as far as we know anyway. In terms of my prediction, this is being asked again. I think that SN15 obviously is going to do better than SN11. However, with 1 to 200 different changes, thank you so much for that huge super chat, Garden. Thank you so much. To finish my sentence, after 1 to 200 changes, that's 1 to 200 new things that theoretically could go wrong. If all of those things go right, then yeah, we're going to have a perfect flight and a perfect landing. I have a few doubts that all of those things are going to go right. I have a feeling that enough of those things will go wrong to where it's not going to be a perfect test. Get a good pics of the crash, says Patrick. Thank you. I do intend to. I have much better equipment than I used to. And not only that, I have friends now in Boca Chica who are going to be right with me, who have even better equipment than I do, who are going to be sharing stuff with me too. So unless Elon launches in the damn fog again, and I hope he doesn't do that, I'm going to have a real good view. And I can't wait. I really can't wait. This is going to be the most magnificent and incredible launch that I have seen maybe since I saw the Challenger take off on its maiden flight. That was an incredible thing to see, especially when I was very, very young, that sort of thing. Sigmund, happy birthday, Sigmund. Just a request made. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, and happy birthday indeed. Will SN15 be more successful than Starliner's second test late this year? Let me put it this way. I hope so. I hope so. Starliner, I think, is a colossal waste, even if it does succeed. It's going to be draining funds, and I said this in my video recently, it's going to be draining funds away from NASA at a ridiculous rate, at $90 million a seat instead of $55 million a seat. It's an absurd waste of money, and I just don't want to see it succeed, even though we kind of have to have it succeed. But I would prefer to see NASA finally have no choice but to human rate the Dream Chaser, which is getting close to being human rated anyway. And going with that route, I think that they will get a better deal. So we'll see how that goes. Blue Origin is looking less and less capable. Yeah, that is true. The fact that Bezos just invested in 9 flights of the Atlas V to carry up his Kuiper satellites instead of using his own non-existent rockets, I think is an indication that that things are over for Blue Origin. But that's not the topic of what we're talking about here. Who is going to boost the ISS orbit if not Starliner? Well, actually, fortunately, the Dream Chaser does have the ability to do reboost, and an unmanned Dream Chaser is going to start to fly next year. So that, that will be able to handle, it'll be unmanned, of course, but still the Dream Chaser Chaser and Sierra Nevada will fill that gap if they have to. Baco, I'm doing just fine, and thank you for the super chat. Okay, let's see here. How will NASA certified as human rated if it doesn't have an abort system? Well, maybe it does. Keep in mind that the very design of the Dream Chaser, it has very powerful engines on it, and powerful enough to do reboosts on the ISS. It can eject from the rocket that it's launching from, go to a fairly substantial altitude, and then glide down. I believe that that's its design for abort, and they actually dropped it from a helicopter to do a test of that capability. So I think that I do believe that it has that capability, just a little unconventionally, but I think it has that capability. And yes, the Raptor is very different. That's true. The Raptor, the new Raptors are very different, and that's a big reason why there could be some time that needs to be invested. And I could be in Boca Chica, excuse me, for quite some time, getting a shot of this, but one way or the other, I'm going to be seeing it unless there's fog. Wednesday's supposed to be mostly cloudy. Worse weather after that until the weekend. That's fun. Does the reboost happen while docked? Yeah, yes, it has to be, and it uses its reaction control thrusters to reboost it. Is my understanding. It depends on the ship, but nevertheless, I believe that that's how the reboost functions. But it needs the fuel, and that is one of the problems. Is Crew Dragon the design doesn't have the necessary fuel to reboost something the size of the ISS. That is its one Achilles heel, as I mentioned in the video. Will we see the booster fly before or after the orbital launch pad is complete? Both appear to be heading for a target completion date of net July. Boy, I don't know. I would say that we're going to at least see some tests of Super Heavy before the orbital launch pad is completed. May not use a whole bunch of engines, but we'll see. Let's see, SN15 would be graded by how much SpaceX learns from the data, even if it ends a dirt chart. Starliner actually has to do everything right on the first try. Good point. It's testing versus demonstration. That is a good point. Starliner was supposed to be ready. Yes, it was. It was supposed to be ready to be carrying humans. And 2 years later, it's still not going to be ready. It's ridiculous. And I've said that I don't know how many times. It's unacceptable. So much money spent on that piece of junk. So yeah, if SN15 burns to the ground on the pad, I think I'll be making more progress than Starliner seems to be. Yeah. It's that's true. It is two different things. Starship is a test. Starliner is a demonstration of a finished project. A idea for a video. I always wanted to know how the first stage separates from the second stage. Sure, that could be something I could throw into a video. Why not? I'll definitely keep that in mind in terms of, it's something that a lot of people like Scott Manley really describe very well, though. Scott Manley has an incredibly good understanding of rocket science. I would say the dude's pretty much a rocket scientist himself. So a lot of his videos describe that, if you want to see it right now anyway, but I will be more than happy to put something into that. Segment says, I'm more and more worried about the design if they don't stick the landing this time. What are the odds? I'd say 50-50, but the only reason that it's still up in the air is because they've added so many modifications. The design itself may not be that big of a problem. The design itself may not be a huge issue. It may simply turn out to be a I just got a note from my son saying there's no Battle of the Bands, doggone it, and I guess it's because most of the bands dropped out. That stinks. Oh well. But in any event, they got the talent show and they did a whole lot of stuff there, so I still got to watch all. Anyway, that's off topic. Okay, so yeah, I would say the design is still solid, even if it doesn't stick the landing for a little while. I just think that they need to put some effort into it. That is the main thing. Why does it keep taking 24 hours to get to the station? It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't actually take it. In a lot of ways, it depends on where the station is in its orbit, when the launch takes place, that sort of thing. But also, it's a matter of, just coordinating the docking. I mean, you have to get that right. And it better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry. I will congratulate him. Thank you. Looks like Cygnus can do reboosting. Yes, Cygnus can do reboosting. One of the problems I have with Cygnus, of course, is that it's a non-reusable, expensive, resupply ship. I can't stand the thing. Do I think that Blue Origin can generate enough money with the New Shepard tourist flights to keep New Glenn program running? I hope not. What can I say? I hope not. I think Blue Origin is just a waste. I think that they're doing things that have been done already. I really don't think that there just isn't a lot of innovation there. There really isn't. So until they come up with something really super cool and innovative, because Virgin Galactic, their orbital, suborbital tourist experience is so much cooler, so much more exciting than what Blue Origin has to offer. Blue Origin, as I said before, is a 10-minute suborbital bungee jump, whereas the Virgin Galactic experience is so much better. And it does work. They've flown people on it twice. It's just, can they get it to work safely? Excuse me. I hope they can. I really hope they can. So we'll see what happens on that. I wonder how long we start until we start talking about Cygnus on Falcon 9, just for that capability. It would be nice if we could do it. That would make it a lot cheaper. Cygnus itself is still not a reusable ship unto itself, although maybe they could find a way to make it reusable. The engine they're producing, that is Blue Origin. Yep, that's true. Blue Origin is going to be relevant in terms of producing engines for the Vulcan Centaur. That's going to remain important. And that's why I've said a number of times that we need to, that ULA needs to look at gobbling up Blue Origin. They just, if all they're doing is making engines, then they just need to be a subdivision of ULA. They don't serve any other purpose besides that. Mad Hatter, thank you very much. Not to get super political, but do you think that China pushing back on Tesla and Starlink could end up causing even more tension with the U.S. since SpaceX was chosen as a sole provider for HLS? Matt, there's a lot of things causing tension between the U.S. and China. It is kind of scary, and the Russians are jumping into the fray too in a big way. It is a deep concern. Like the Cold War is coming back. In a lot of ways, it can be argued that it is back. So very hard to say. Kenneth, thank you so much for the super chat and the support. You guys are awesome. Foom, thank you very much, Foom, for jumping in. As always, you're fantastic. Okay, so yeah. One thing that I need to point out, one thing that I think it's important for us to look at when it comes to SN15 has been the cryogenic tests. Have there been any differences between the cryogenic tests of the previous iterations of Starship and SN15? The answer to that is actually yes, there has. On close inspection, there are some minor visual differences. That's all I'm going to say, but there are some minor visual differences between the cryogenic tests from previous versions of Starship and now. What that means, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but it might have something to do with, with the fuel tanks. It might have something to do with pressure. There's a variety of different things that, that it could be related to what's going on with SN15. There could be some modifications made as far as that's concerned in terms of the way that it delivers its fuel, the way it stores its fuel. excuse me, that sort of thing. So yeah, big question. It seems like Peter Beck took a little shot at Elon in a recent interview, saying there's nothing nearly as valuable as taking apart a booster prototype that has landed. Huh. Interesting. I didn't even see that. Starliner Glitch says Beck and Elon have a lot of friendly competition, congratulating each other's successes. That's true, Starliner Glitch, and ribbing each other's failures. It's wholesome to see. I am a big fan of both of them. Actually, I'm a fan of ULA too. I think that the competition between all of these organizations is good for space flight. Let's keep the competition going so that everybody keeps, it just continues to participate in innovating, in changing, in coming up with new designs, coming up with better designs, coming up with more competitive designs. All of this is critically important, I think, to the success of spaceflight in the long run. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of all of that. The dynamic between Elon Tori and Peter is really wholesome. Yeah, it does indeed to be that way. How do you think Tori Bruno can take over Blue Origin? Jeff has a big ego. That's true. One thing, though, that's interesting, and I think that needs to be pointed out, is that Jeff just purchased, and I mentioned this before, 9 rather, Atlas V rockets were purchased by Amazon for their Kuiper system. Now, originally, they were supposed to be using Blue Origin rockets, but as it has become increasingly obvious that Blue Origin is not going to have a rocket for a long time to launch these things, then it could be that ultimately, remember, Jeff is all about money. When it comes down to it, that is the bottom line for him. It has to be. And so if it becomes obvious that Blue Origin is just not going to make money, I think he's ultimately going to cut it loose. I think that it's just going to be too much of a millstone around his neck if he can't find a way to make it profitable. That's just my opinion. And I think that would be, more beneficial. But we'll see. We'll see. It's hard to say. They haven't made the switch to the 3mm steel, says Jake. Interesting. I did not actually know that. And they do need to make the switch. So yeah, there's still modifications to be made. Some people joining late. It went really well. That's all I can say. It went really well, both on the piano and the. I'll cover that a little bit more as time goes on. But it was all really a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it tremendously. Relativity Space is another one. Yeah, I've heard of them. I've done some reading. I may do something about them. Another one that's staying somewhat under the radar, but I have high hopes for. Yeah, me too. Definitely. Why do I like ULA so much? I like the Vulcan Centaur. That's what I like. I think that it and the new innovations that are going with it, and the fact that Tori Bruno is such a fan of fuel depots. If anybody watches my videos going all the way back to the beginning, I was advocating fuel depots from the very beginning as a solution to refuel Starship. And Tori Bruno is all about fuel depots. He is a huge fan of that concept of putting fuel in low Earth orbit to extend our reach out into the solar system. He is a big advocate of that. And if he's a big advocate of that, then I'm an advocate of what he does. So there's innovation there. If somebody is innovating, that's what I like. If somebody isn't innovating, like Boeing, like Northrop, like, all these other people that just depend on government support to make their money, those are the ones I hate. The ones who innovate, they're the ones I like. And as time went on, Blue Origin started to innovate less. They started making a lunar lander that was more conventional rather than more innovative. Theirs was the least innovative of the 3 landers. That's just absurd. Once again, I find it very, so yeah, that's my main reasons. If a company innovates, then I'm gonna be a fan of theirs, especially if they innovate in a different way than SpaceX. All Russia and China is doing with their reusable first stage is copying SpaceX. ULA is innovating in a different way. I find that to be good too. You know, if you innovate in a different and original way, then that's cool. I'm a big fan of that. Relatively okay. Let's see. Oh, a question from Nigel. Apparently, I missed this one. What has made me the most angry recently? Well, I would say probably what I reported on the most recently with Starliner. The fact that they delayed it again and then they tried to make excuses for it. They tried to say, oh, it was the weather in Texas. Oh, it was power outages and it was COVID and it was, give me a break. You should have had all of your software issues resolved by the end of 2020, before the Texas issues came up, you know, before any of this started to happen. You've had 16 months to fix a software system that should have been working properly to begin with, and yet you haven't been able to do it in spite of all this money, in spite of all of this talent, in spite of all of the resources that you have at your disposal, Boeing, and yet you still haven't been able to do it. And it is costing NASA as a result, and therefore the American taxpayer, and that pisses me off. So yeah, if you want to talk about what makes me the most angry, that's it. At least at the moment. You know, that could change at some point, but absolutely. Absolutely. ULA is founded by Boeing and Lockheed Martin. Doesn't that make me a Boeing fan? Yes, I am aware of that. However, the neat thing about ULA is, like so many children, they have decided to do something different than their parents. And so that's why I like them. They've decided to move away from their parents' legacy and do something entirely different. Sigmund says Blue Origin is the old space. There seems to be a lot of politics. Yup. Lobbying and money amongst the good old boys network. Yup. If the company focused their energy into engineering, a lot more progress would be made. Yep. Absolutely true. All of that. It's ridiculous. And it gets me really agitated. So that's another reason why I don't like Blue Origin. They're trying to do things like the old boys. It's ridiculous. You're a brand new company. You're supposed to be introducing a new way of doing things in the private space industry, not embracing the old way. But that's what they're doing. Isn't that fun? Oh, before I forget, real quick, Spaceship Mania. It's they've been sponsors of mine for a long time. They make starships and they make all kinds of cool stuff. Keychains, all kinds of neat things that they manufacture. Use the code ANGRY15 and the link is in the description. ANGRY15 and you get a 15% discount. This guy makes some great stuff. Crew Dragon, starships, keychains, etc. So keep that in mind. ANGRY15 for a 15% discount. Okay, 14 months of corrective actions. 4 were mission critical to gain the privilege of paying more for a Starliner seat than we were paying the Russians. Yep, you're right about that, Darth. That's pretty much it. I hope SpaceX will come out with a high detail Starship model someday. Yeah, that would be neat. That would be definitely a neat thing. Bruno, thank you for the €10. What should SpaceX use, 3D printing or prefab compartments for a Mars base? I would say 3D printing. And the reason is because NASA has come up with so many 3D printed habitation systems, so many systems that have already been tested that have used simulated Martian regolith in order to create habitats for astronauts and for colonists. So I'm very much in favor of the 3D printed solution. How would SpaceX solve the lunar plume problem, says Brent? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's just a matter of physics. If you're decelerating 100 metric tons plus cargo, it's going to create a huge plume of debris, especially on a body that has only 1/6 of our gravity. Stuff is going to fly everywhere. Rocks, dust, everything. I really don't know how you solve that. Even if you have the engines mounted further up. still going to do something. That's a tough one. That's a real tough one. They'll figure something out. But keep in mind, SpaceX and the technical side of their bid was only looked upon as acceptable. Somebody said that that's like getting a C on a test. That is kind of true. And nobody did better than that. Nobody did. And so, you know, we need to keep that in mind, is that there's improvements to be made here, guys. You know, NASA went with the best that they had. So we'll see what happens. That's a very, very interesting question to say the least. Okay, we had another question up here. Oh, Firefly. I've looked a little bit into them, but I haven't actually done enough to do a video about them. So, but I am interested. Thank you very much, Foom. So my plan, I will be leaving tomorrow from an airport here locally this time. I'm tired of driving huge distances to airports. And landing in Corpus Christi, because that was the only place that has a rental car place open on Sundays. So I'll be landing in Corpus Christi, and then driving the rest of the way, which really isn't all that far. And then I'll be staying in Harlingen probably, but I'm not certain exactly what the deal is. And yeah, like I say, guys, for those of you who have been asking and I haven't noticed, these chats just go right by. Thank you so much, come hell or high water. Wow. Once again, apologize to everybody who have, you know, been asking questions and I miss it. You know, these comments go right by me, and sometimes I have a hard time noticing it. Yeah, I did do a video on Vasimir. It was a long time ago, and I've done actually two. The problem with Vasimir is there's a lot of debate as to how doable it is without fusion power. The amount of nuclear energy required in order to do what's necessary to drive out the ionized fuel the way they're talking about at the speeds that they're talking about requires a tremendous amount of nuclear energy beyond the capabilities of current reactors, is my understanding, and we may need fusion to make that work. But once again, I'm going to have to look into that again. But Vasimir is something that is very compelling because it will, you know, if once it's perfected, it is going to take us across the solar system at colossal rates of speed. But we'll see. What's next for NASA and commercial crew program if Starliner fails the next demonstration? I hope it's going to be Dream Chaser. I hope that's where they go. Roblox next graphics collaboration with Mars Embassy. When I get there, yes, I'll be hanging out with Mars Embassy a lot. Actually, he's a good friend of mine now. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing hanging out a lot together. Do you know if there are any pics of Crew 2 second stage bargain formation with Dragon? I don't know yet. I honestly, I haven't seen everything from, I watched Crew 2, you know, when it took off. The nighttime launch, God, you know, the more I saw it, the more I wished I was there. I think that would be an amazing thing. No, I didn't see Space Junk miss with Crew 2. Wow, really? I didn't read about that. That is a scary thing indeed. If that was indeed the case, jeez, that's a huge problem. Space junk is becoming more and more of an issue with every passing day. We definitely need to do something about it. And Elon's doing something about it. He has a prize out right now with X Prize to clean up space junk. So, to come up with an innovative solution to deal with it. The British have some very interesting ideas, Skyrora in particular, to get rid of space junk. They have some very intriguing ideas. So I'm very interested in that. Jeez. I've only got a few more minutes, guys. I was only planning to go for about an hour today. I actually have dinner planned this evening with my son. So a lot going on with me, plus still need to pack all of these wonderful things, and I'll be leaving super early tomorrow. So yeah, a lot happening, to say the least, but I still have a few minutes. So let's keep it going. Anything more about SN15? Any more speculations? That sort of thing. I'm very interested. We have a lot of smart people here, a lot of people who could come up with some really good stuff. Engines we've talked about. I've mentioned cryogenic storage, cryogenic testing. Maybe some differences between this and previous versions, previous iterations of Starship. Does that mean something? Or perhaps are they just being extra careful because now we've got NASA's almost $3 billion invested? Does that mean something? It might. It very well might. So all of these things need to be taken into account. I'm excited. That's all I can say. I'm very excited to watch this, to say the least. Oh, is the Patreon link broken again? Okay, I'll get it fixed. For some reason, every time I put it in there, it just changes. And I can't explain why. You can just go to Patreon and put in the Angry Astronaut and it'll bring me up. But I'll go ahead and get that done. I do not understand why that keeps occurring. It's like somebody has a link very similar to mine and somehow it interprets it as being the same thing. I can't imagine. I mean, I've got over 400 Patreon supporters, so it's like people become members, but there are issues. I'm told, says Darth, they want to do more than one static fire. Interesting. Could be a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday cadence if no problems develop. Very interesting. Maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. I'm very excited to see what happens. Do I think the new test stand is to simulate the pressure and helium issues in the header tank without causing an RUD? That's an interesting question. I mean, you need a new test stand to do a lot of things. I mean, you make changes to an engine. Anytime you make changes to a piece of equipment, you're going to need a new test stand, new ways of testing it. That isn't to say that there's going to be great differences, but nevertheless, there are going to be modifications occurring anytime you significantly change an engine. It is interesting. Now, there shouldn't be helium issues in the header tank. There should be no helium in the header tank. That's being put in there in order to artificially increase pressure, but it should not be there because there is no damn helium on Mars. We're not going to be able to manufacture this stuff in situ on Mars. So, we're going to have to find a solution to this whole helium pressure thing. As far as the header tanks are concerned, this is only a stopgap solution. So, eventually that's going to have to be fixed. And I hope they do that sooner rather than later. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's keep going here. I want to make sure I've got all these. Five quid from Shane. Thank you. Could Cargo Dragon be adapted into a booster by the ISS by replacing the cargo with extra fuel? Probably. Yeah. Might be a little wasteful though, to do that, to do an entire launch just for the sake of reboost. It's good to accomplish multiple objectives, with one launch. But yeah, I'm sure it could be done, if they were in a pinch. Okay. Jeez. Foom, my God. Foom, did you really? Oh my Lord. Okay. Thank you so much, Foom. Wow. Somebody just made me aware of that. You guys are absolutely incredible. Yeah, you are a hero. Definitely a hero. Thank you so much, man. You do so much to support this channel. What else can I say? Okay, now the ISS is going to have incoming from higher orbits. Yep, there's going to be stuff coming in to the ISS from, from Mars and the moon, etc. All of that is going to complicate matters. A great new world coming, a great new solar system, a great new universe. Very interesting. The co-founder of the X Prize learned a lot about passion for O'Neill cylinders. Yeah, I did an episode about O'Neill cylinders, but that was a long time ago. And I would very much be the case. Could you jump from Olympus Mons to Phobos? No, you couldn't. Even if you were a great Olympic champion, there's no way that you could do it. Renow, thank you so much. Wow, you guys are coming in at the last second to help me. Emerson, thank you so much. Mars has argon, which is like helium, but more massive, which matters a lot less. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they could use that. I mean, I'm sure they can find a solution. I just think that they need to find a solution that works on Mars. And it's not going to be very difficult to work on Mars. You guys are absolutely incredible, though. So we've covered a lot of topics with SN15, along with a lot of other stuff. Once again, guys, I'm sorry for the abbreviated talk. I am pretty exhausted, I have to admit. Once again, allergy related and medication associated with that related. And I've got to leave really early tomorrow, get packing done, etc. Lots of excuses. Sorry about that. But nevertheless, I think that we talked about a lot and accomplished a lot. So SN15, I think we can all agree that a lot has happened that makes this different, that makes this important. Perhaps the most important thing is this is the first launch after NASA has decided that this is going to be the lunar lander for Artemis. That is a huge deal. It's going to matter so much. Every single launch is going to matter so much from here on out. So until SN15 launches and hopefully sticks that landing, or a future version does, and we get a perfect test indicating to all of us that Lunar Starship is going to be able to do the job and return mankind to the surface of the moon, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.